your message, your voice, your story, it's not just important, it was chosen by your soul. And when we can trust that we will take each step and go through this dense forest of consciousness and know that the darkness was our preparation test to help other people who are also in their own forests, just knowing that there is light is enough for people to awaken their light. And you are here to be the example of what is possible for the people who are still in that dense forest.
Trust flow, surrender, let go. Yeah. Trust flow, surrender, let go. I'm the one I've been waiting for. Trust flow, surrender, let go. Trust flow, surrender, let go. Trust flow, surrender, let go. I'm the one I've been waiting for.
Namaste and welcome back to the Highest Self Podcast. My name is Sahara Rose. On this podcast, I love to talk about spirituality, but make it modern, fun, grounded, and relatable so it can actually serve your needs. And today is going to be a little bit of a different episode because a question that I get from so many of you guys is, how do I stay consistent with creating content? And even more than that, how do I put myself out there? Because I feel like every single time I'm about to post a reel or a post, a quote, even a story, I start overthinking and I feel like it's not good enough. And I wait until eventually I just never post the thing and another month goes by. So who's in that category? Non-posters Anonymous, what's up? Nice to meet you. I'm here to help. And before we get into this episode, be sure to hit subscribe. That allows you to stay in the loop for future conversations. This podcast is also on YouTube, so you could be watching us in person, Spotify video, and the Apple Store. So be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with future conversations, and let's get into this one. So let me share a little bit about how I got here. So today, what my business looks like is I'm a keynote speaker. I was just on stage at Mind Valley in Amsterdam, hosting the stage, speaking. I've spoken at Google, Facebook, lots of different organizations. I've hosted this podcast for 8 years, never missed a week, 700 plus episodes at this point. I've written now 4 books onto my 5th and created the Speak with Soul method that has trained over 3,000 people to move from awkward and just not so comfortable to confident and intuitively aligned speaker. So speaking is my jam. It was not my gift to begin with, I'm going to say, but it's something that I developed and have grown into. So if you are that person that's like, I have a message I really want to share, and I know I have a powerful story, and I know I'm connected to deeper wisdom, but it's the actual taking video and posting it and replying to comments, like that whole thing just makes me freaking overwhelmed and kind of anxious, and so I just don't do it. So if you're there, this episode is for you. And even if you're already posting and sharing, but you feel like you overthink and it's not really fully in alignment with who you are, or maybe even just overthinking, reposting spiritual quotes because you're worried about what people might think. So I feel in this day and age, with the internet being such a huge part of our lives, I mean, nowadays you can lose your passport, your wallet, your everything, the keys to your house, the keys to your car. But if you lose your phone, you're actually way more screwed. So like everything is on our phone. We're on our phones like on average, I believe an American, 9 hours a day. So it's a full-time job for us just to be on our phones, and we can have a whole conversation about that. But the gift and the opportunity is every person gets to be their own Oprah. So back in the day, you had to be chosen to, get on that one talk show. And only if you made it on that talk show would your message be heard. And of course, who are they going to choose for that talk show? I mean, most likely someone who kind of fits the mainstream narrative, isn't too outside the box, someone that has connections, someone that had PR, someone that has money, connections in the industry. So it wasn't really like a fair all game. Like our parents and even us who were in the 90s, we didn't grow up thinking just anyone can start a TV show. Maybe we all wanted that, but it wasn't an actual opportunity for us until the internet. And now every single person can hit this one button on their phone. It's called live. And all of a sudden, you're your own Oprah. You have your own show. You can say whatever you want. And you don't have any producers or sponsors or anyone that's going to tell you not to. So we actually live in the best time in human history for sharing your story. And I don't care what people have to say. I really believe our souls chose to incarnate right now at this time because our souls desire to share ideas, because it was never feasible before. Like, I am a full-time mystic. When people ask me what I do, I contemplate the mysteries of life and I share them, and that's what I'm paid for, and that's how I pay for my rent. Like, isn't that really freaking cool? Like, we get to be modern day philosophers and thought leaders and visionaries and healers and light workers. Like, this gets to be our profession if we learn to master this one little thing, and that is sharing our story, especially on social media, which is where most people are hearing stories. So yes, you could go door to door to like Jehovah's Witness, but I encourage you to just use Instagram or a podcast or YouTube channel instead. It might be a little bit less invasive. Just gonna say that, no hate. So now let's get into, well, we know it's so amazing. We know that it can open doors for you in terms of creating your own coaching practice, in terms of creating your own business of any sorts, speaking on stages, hosting retreats, doing healing, writing books, starting podcasts. The list goes on of the things that you can do when you create a personal brand for yourself online. Like, even if you're not even sure what you want to do later, just by starting and building that trust and building that connection, doors will start to open for you because people will start to know you and you'll start to get feedback from the comments, and that will fine tune. You know, I had a friend I recently saw at a mastermind, and she was a big online social media content creator. She took a few years off and she went back to that anxious feeling. And she's like, good for you for not taking a break, because I took a break and I didn't think about the getting back on. It almost feels like starting all over again. So sometimes, even when maybe you once had a brand, you once had a platform, you once maybe spoke in different ways, maybe you were more in corporate. And so for you, like, speaking off the cuff and just channeling, that feels very unprofessional because you have been trained to, you know, maybe have a report and maybe you were a lawyer or something. So I share this because it happens to everyone. And especially when we enter into new styles of speaking and sharing our story, it feels less comfortable. So I'm going to share probably what you're experiencing right now when it comes to sharing your wisdom. So let's just say we got invited to a little potluck gathering amongst some friends of friends, and we go and we're hanging out at the snacks table. You know, we're having some baba ganoush, and someone comes up to us, and, you know, they don't know us. It's a friend of a friend. Maybe you've seen her repost on someone's story, and she's like, "Hey, are you Katie?" And you're like, "Yeah, I am Katie." And she's like, "Oh my God, nice to meet you." Start talking, and then she's like, "Wow, like, you know, when you said that, it actually reminded me of something I never really addressed in my last relationship that really needed to be healed and resolved." You're like, "Wow, that's so fascinating. Tell me more." "Well, you know, I thought that he did it." And they start telling you their story, and you're listening like, wow, I'm having so many breakthroughs right now because I've actually never thought about it from this angle. And that also reminds me of this. And do you think that it could be that? And you're asking questions and listening and holding space and doing what comes naturally to you. And I have never told this to anyone in my entire life. Like, I don't even know why I'm sharing this with you, but something, I don't know, something about you just makes me feel so comfortable. And I just feel like sharing this right now. And you're like, "Oh, wonderful. I'm glad this conversation is so helpful." And she's like 30 minutes later, like, "Wow, that was the most profound conversation I've ever had. I've actually never accessed those layers that needed to be healed before. So, wow, thank you so much. What's your name? Let's get a coffee." And you're like, "Okay, cool. Sure. Let's get a coffee." And you walk away probably half pleased, like, that was an amazing conversation. I'm so grateful I got to make a change, but also half like, I know I need to be doing something with this gift. Like, it's not my first rodeo. So I'm going to make a little assumption about you that every time you go to a gathering, you have one of these situations where someone shares with you something they have never told anyone before, and they don't know why they feel so comfortable and safe with you. And they're having all these revelations just from your presence, just from you being there. And you may think, well, this is probably happening to everyone. Like, I've experienced this every single time I leave the house, from even the Uber driver telling me their life story. So like, people just must do this. People just must divulge all of their deepest traumas to everyone, right? No. Because did you notice they said, I've never said this to anyone before? And they have no reason to lie. They don't know you. So the fact that so many different people have said, I've never shared this to anyone before. I've never felt so vulnerable with someone before, and I just met you, means you have a gift. There is something to you. And what that is it's your nervous system. So when we're in conversation with people, more than the words we're listening to, we're feeling into the energetic state of their body. So we are feeling how grounded they are, how much shadow work they have done. So how much of their own pain and hurt and sadness and even anger that they have addressed and moved through. So telepathically, we are feeling that. And we can feel when someone's traversed those gnarly corners of consciousness and come out the other side. There is this inherent safety in them. You know that they can hold you in your full range. You know that whatever you say, they got you. Like, they will understand you. You feel safe in their presence. And this is why people are sharing that with you, because you are that person. You're not here listening to this podcast by accident. I don't attract muggles at all. If you're listening to this, you are a very wise, a very deep, a very fun, a very playful, and might I say sexy person. I'm going to give you that too. Like knows like, you know? Honestly, it's time for you to get out of the spiritual closet, because you have incredible gifts that you are here to share. Your message, your story, your wisdom. I know it inspires your friends, your family members, your colleagues, everyone you meet, but it's time to actually be able to share it with the world. But I know what you might be thinking. I don't know what to post. I don't feel like I'm a confident speaker. I hate the sound of my own voice. Well, if this is you, I was exactly in your position. And this is why I've created my Speak with Soul method that has led to me and over 3,000 people moving from awkward to confident speaker in just 21 days. So in this method, I go so much deeper than giving a TED Talk, but rather it is about the energetic transfer you are here to admit. It's about the tone, texture, quality of your voice, how to share a story, how to be a channel, how to really listen to what your soul is here to express beyond the mind and into the body and spirit. So you're going to learn about what type of speaker you are, how to effectively share your story, and end off the 21 days recording your own podcast intro, which, by the way, you need to have me on one day. So if you're interested and curious, I have a code for 20% off right now. You can head over to the show notes, speakwithsoulcourse.com, and use coupon code podcast for 20% off. Again, that is speakwithsoulcourse.com, coupon code podcast. And I have that link in the show notes, and I'm so excited to see what you create. And without further ado, let's get back into the episode. And so if you resonate with me, it's because there's something in my gifts that you see in yourself. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here listening. So you are a deep spiritual, but also charismatic person that is able to take the tough things you've gone through in life and come out the other side even more playful and funny and expressive. And that's part of your gift. Now, the way that it might be used right now are these random kind of trauma dumps at the cheese table at a party. Now, how do we take that next step in actually creating some kind of project or career or social platform to share our wisdom? So for me and what I teach my students, and I founded a school called Highest Self Institute that trains spiritual life coaches, embodiment coaches, soul purpose coaches, and the business of coaching. I'll share that link below. I have full 6-month trainings. And so it starts with coaching, like how to coach, how to actually create a business. And that's what I guide you through. And I've spoken about that on other podcasts. I'll share some free mini courses and resources about that. I'll share a free quiz so you could see what kind of coach you are. So it starts with coaching, but what I really want to talk about here on this episode is about now sharing your voice. Because the truth is, no matter how good of a coach you are, no one will know if you feel that imposter syndrome around sharing. So I love just going straight into the shadow, straight into the fear, because I feel like until we address the elephant in the room, we keep running around in circles. So I could give you, this is how I do my reels. This is how I do my stories. This is how I do this, that. And I go into that in my certifications. But I want to talk about like the deeper karmic reason of why there is such fear around sharing our voice. So what is karma, first of all? Karma in American English, but let's use the Sanskrit pronunciation because we actually activate the energy of the words when we use them. So karma, it's essentially the actions that you have taken in this life. So every decision you've made, every thought you've had, every choice, every behavior, every, direction in life that you've taken. So all of that has created karma. But also your childhood, the things that you may not have chosen, but they were actions, they were incubations that you were a part of. So your childhood, which is going to connect to your parents' childhood, which is going to connect to your society and your culture and your religion. And also, even deeper than that, it's your past lives. So our soul is not our first rodeo here, especially if you're listening to this podcast. You are an old soul that has incarnated many, many times. If you're contemplating consciousness, you have likely sat in temples for many, many lifetimes to be here because 99% of people on this planet are not having this high level of a conversation. They're just focused on survival. And so if you're here, you've already observed that we are in a matrix, and we've already observed that the mainstream reality that most people are subscribed to is just going to lead to perpetual dread and suffering. And we can see that with the bird's eye perspective. And we know that we are here to experience so much more. So this ties in with your gift. This is why you have the gift of the seer, the oracle, the priestess, the mystic, the medicine woman, the shaman, the wise woman, the healer. All of these archetypes are living within you because you carry this wisdom to be shared. But then why isn't it so simple? Well, because we actually chose the karma, including the past lives that we have had. So all of those lifetimes we've spent, as priestesses in ancient Egypt, but also as slaves, also as abused women who weren't able to make choices, also as people who were burnt at the stake. We've actually gone through all of these different experiences of life that each lifetime has given us likely several huge lessons that we have taken and moved on with that have added up. And that's why you were born with this wisdom. That's why you were born with this natural gift to listen and actually hear what's being unspoken. That's why likely as a child, you had a narcissistic parent. We choose this as very empathic souls because it's our empath training ground. Like, what better way to learn empathy and connecting to other people by seeing firsthand what it does when we're disconnected to other people? So when we have a parent that's narcissistic, maybe a challenging parent, that parent was the first teacher that our soul chose to give us that contrast. So we refine our initial gifts. So likely as a child, you were different. You were very sensitive. You may have been picked on as a kid because you didn't fit in, because you were just feeling things to a level that other people couldn't. So I share all of this because this helps us build the trust within ourselves that our voice matters. Because once again, I can tell you, just go on Instagram and post a reel. There is a much, much, much deeper reason as to why you're not. And until we really get to the root of it, you're going to keep not posting those drafts. So this is how I work, baby girl. Let's get in. So the karmas of past lives are also ancestral. So if you are a woman, and if you ever incarnated as a woman, which I think we all have been both genders, all genders, as women, we literally would have been excommunicated from our village had we shared our voices. So the woman who said, you know what, I have a feeling that this politician is not telling the truth. What is the politician going to do? Kill her. That woman that says, you know what? I think by going into that village and trying to fight that war, we're actually going to be really hurt from this. Killed. How dare you? Especially when we were building city-states. I grew up in Massachusetts near Salem, which is the second plantation that was here in the United States. It was Plymouth Plantation and then Salem. And so it's the second oldest city in the United States. And there's so much in the herstory there, but it's the place where the witch trials happened. And why did the witch trials start? Well, it wasn't actually because a lot of girls were doing magic. I wish that was the story, but it was actually because they were at war with the Native Americans there. And so the mayor of Salem had to go up north towards Maine to fight that war. And he put his right-hand person in charge of Salem, who he was very connected to the church. And as people had left England, they were no longer resonating with Christianity. You know, they left England because of religious persecution, because they didn't have the freedom to share their voices, and they were kind of noticing the shadows of the religion. And by the way, guys, this is early 1600s, and they were noticing that. And they're in this new country and they're creating this new life. And so he wanted to create more power and authority in the church, which was the government as well. There was no separation of church and state. So what was his plan? All of the women that were different in any way were now considered witches. They were considered to be possessed by the devil. Because once you say someone's possessed by the devil, there's no going back. If someone said, she's a witch, I saw her flying on a broom in the middle of the night, which, by the way, now we know the rye bread at that time had some kind of fermentation that had LSD in it. I'm not making this shit up, guys. So people were tripping on LSD. And so they may have seen someone flying on a broom. Does that mean it was real? And so if you were a woman who was outspoken, if you were a woman who was divorced, if you were a woman who had any kind of intuition, any kind of position of power, mental illness, anything that they decided to just not like you, you were deemed a witch. And once you are persecuted as a witch, they run you through these trials, which, by the way, are not trials at all. You don't have a lawyer. You don't have anyone to actually represent you. You're going against the government, and the judge is the government. And anyone that sides with you will also be persecuted as a witch, male or female. And so anyone that says, no, they're not a witch. I was next to them last night. They were sleeping. They were not flying on a broomstick. You are conspiring together. You are both witches. You shall both be named. And now you're screwed too. And let's talk about what happened when that happened. I could be a Salem tour guide, guys. So they would run you through these different tests to see if you were indeed a witch. One of the tests were, there was this 1,000-ton stone, a gigantic stone. And they would say, if she is a witch, we will place the stone on top of her and she will fly away into the dead of night and we'll know she was a witch. And if she's not a witch, she will die and at least we'll now know. And so they would do that test on women. Smush them alive in the middle of the town to also make the statement to all the women, hey, if you share your voice, if you are expressive, if you are intuitive, if you are powerful, if you leave your abusive husband, if you do anything that us church doesn't like, you'll be next, my friends. And so when women were being tortured, that was one of the ways with stone. Another way was they were hung. If she's a witch, she'll find a way to escape, and if not, she'll die. Most died. You'll see many of their cemeteries, it says right there, hanged. Men and women, by the way. Another way is they would tie up your hands and feet, and throw you off a cliff into the ocean. Because if you're a witch, you'll fly off with a broomstick. And if not, then we'll know. How many of these women had to die? And that was just in Salem. Did you know these witch trials were happening since early 1300s through around 1800s in Europe? Over, I believe the number is around 800,000 to 1.2 million people were killed for this. So in Salem, it was actually quite small. They got to the end of it really quickly. It was like a 2-year period of time. In Europe, this has been happening for a long time. And by the way, it still happens around the world, especially in places like Africa and parts of the Middle East. So women, when they were being tortured, hung, tied up, they would say, do you have any final words? Is there anyone else who you think was a witch. And if they named someone else, they had just a little bit more time. The trial would go on longer. So when these women are literally being smushed to death with a stone, they are naming sometimes anyone that they can name. It was Carol. No, I saw it was Rudith. It was Beatrice. And they'll just start naming anyone they can. You're literally being tortured. And so they say, okay, stop right now. Find Rudith and Carol and Beatrice. And so it gave you a little bit more time to live, but you would all see the same fate. And so woman learned, anyone that knows my name is a threat to my safety. I cannot have anyone know my name because if she is tortured, she may name me next. And so women were taught to stay inside the house, to not speak, to not make eye contact, to not know anyone, and to not let anyone know them. Do you guys see why I'm sharing this? This is in our DNA, our collective consciousness as women. So these women, they're literally seeing actual evidence of, if I share my voice, let alone be seen, let alone be heard, I could die next. So I will be silent. I will take whatever abuse. I will be subservient. I will give myself to whatever the church wants because it's the only way I'm going to survive. And so those witch trials might have stopped, but that consciousness has not. That consciousness still exists today. Cancel culture was a modern day witch hunt. If you don't say what we think you should say, you are inherently bad. You are wrong, and we shall all collectively come as a group to prove it. Guilty until proven innocent. And by the way, once you're proven innocent, it's already too late. Your reputation is smeared. That was happening 5 years ago. And so we go through these bouts of time, and it comes oftentimes from this place. Like, no one thinks they're doing something bad. Like at that time, that head of the church guy, though later on, he actually admitted to the fact, because when the mayor came back after 2 years and said, what have you done? Do you know why the mayor actually brought the witch trials to a stop, guys? Because his wife was the next person who was convicted of being a witch. And he's like, whoa, this has gotten too far. Now you want to kill my wife? This needs to come to an end. You are out of power. These witch trials will stop. That is literally the only reason why they stopped. So that consciousness, though, continued. Be afraid of other women, be afraid of using your voice, be afraid of being seen, be afraid of being heard. And by the way, that consciousness is not new to the witch trials. I feel the witch trials are so big in our collective psyche because it was the most overt way, and it was not long ago when it was here in the US. But this insidious culture of hiding and not sharing yourself, it's literally ingrained in us religiously and culturally. So in Middle Eastern cultures, women in Iran, where my parents are from, are considered half of a human legally. So when you go to court, you need 2 female witnesses per 1 male witness. When there is inheritance, a woman will get, it's actually less than half of the amount of money her brothers would get. She's literally considered half of a human being, and that is today. And in many parts of the world, women are still not seen as equal. And even in countries where we might have equal rights, it's now all undercurrents. It's all, oh, okay, you're equal, then, take care of everything and pay all the bills, and you have to be feminine and soft and this and that. Otherwise, you are going to be unloved, which is the new thing. And so collectively as women, we have become so afraid of sharing our voice, so afraid of sharing our spirituality. It's one thing someone comes to us at the party, but it's another thing now sharing it on social media where your former colleagues follow you, where your mother knows your Instagram account, where your cousins who you barely see, but they're super judgmental, where your college friends who remembered when you used to binge drink, all of these people follow your Instagram. You can't share what you're up to. They're going to think you're full of shit. And so let's do another little round of shadow work right now. That's how I roll. And let's talk about that one. We all have someone that I feel is the reason why we're not sharing ourselves online. Like if you were to fully share your full witchy, intuitive, wise woman, spiritual self, what would you share? You don't need to think of everything, but just think of some things you would share. I would go on live and I would start talking about past lives. I would be posting these breathworks today. I would like share videos of myself dancing. Like I would talk about orgasmic energy. Like I would share my Kundalini practice. Like what is it for you? If there was no repercussion, you could just share freely. Feels good, don't it? Now, imagine you posted that. When you're checking your stories to see who viewed it, you're getting kind of anxious of what people think. Who is the person that comes to mind? Is it your mom? Is it your mother-in-law? Is it that annoying ass colleague that you guys just never got along? Is it your old friends from high school? Who is it that you're like, I really don't want them to judge me? So let's just give a name to this person. So let's say one that I see a lot with the students are people that we used to know, like people we used to work with, people we used to go to school with, people in our former life pre-awakening. So let's give this person a name just to personify it. Let's say her name is Shirley. So imagine you have shared a video of yourself talking about past lives and intuition and karma and astrology and all of the things you want to talk about. And guess what happens? Shirley sees it. Shirley is on Instagram with her 7 kids around her screaming, and she's, trying to just cool off for a sec. And she's scrolling and she sees this post, intuition, past lives. And do you know what she does? She DMs it to the other person that used to know you. She did that. And she says, Samantha, you won't believe it. You won't believe it. Katie thinks she's spiritual now. Look what she posted. Boom. It's in the DMs. It's happening. It's on. And Samantha says, ha 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 ha. And Shirley feels very proud of herself that she found that little piece of tea. And she's like, LOL. Who does she think she is? We used to know her. So what happened? That worst thing that could ever happen just happened. They saw your post. They sent it to someone and they judged you. And they said, who does she think she is? That witch. It happened. Now what? Now what happens next? I'm curious what happens next in the story. I can only go so far. I don't know what happens next. So I wear a lot of white clothing. I love wearing like a white fitted dress. It's just one of my favorite things throughout the year. I don't care. But here's the thing, like when I go to a store and get nude colored underwear, it is not the color of my skin. It's a lot lighter than my skin. I have more of a tan, olivey, Middle Eastern toned skin. And so I never am able to find something that's actually my skin tone. And that's why I was obsessed with Skims Fits Everybody collection. First of all, it's so comfortable. You literally feel like you're not wearing underwear, and they have like every shade of human skin color. So you can find something that actually matches you, that's nude for you. So you can shop Skims Fits Everybody collection at skims.com/Sahara. That's Skims, SKIMS.com/Sahara. And after you place your order, please be sure to let them know we sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select Highest Self Podcast in the drop-down menu. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for everyone on your list, the Skims Holiday Shop is now open. And you can find that link in the show notes.
So trust your intuition, trust your inner wisdom, trust your inner guidance. Close your eyes and listen.
I'm pretty sure what happens next is Shirley continues to scroll and finds another reel. And then sends that. And then her kid vomits on the ground and she has to go clean it up. And then life goes on. They had their moment, they had their laugh, and they go on both thinking about their own lives, because by the way, both of them don't even really know each other either. Life goes on, but where are you? You're sharing yourself online. You are being seen for who you really are. You are able to create a business for yourself where you are paid to be you. You're able to travel the world freely. You're able to give talks, to host retreats, to write books, to do your podcast, to do your YouTube videos, to make an impact in lives of millions of people. So look at what you've gained here. You've gained fulfillment of your life, being proud of yourself, being the chain breaker in your entire lineage, going to sleep knowing that you did your best, dying knowing living, you fully lived your life and your dharma, your soul's purpose in a way that you could have never without going through this fear, literally loving yourself to greater levels than you ever have before. So you gained all of that. The most important things I could say in life, fulfillment, freedom, abundance, love, direction, community who really sees you. You've gained all of that. And what did you lose? Shirley eventually unfollowed you. Bye. She unfollowed you. Let's just run a little pro and con list right there. Pro, ultimate fulfillment, living your soul's purpose, dying fulfilled and happy, having true self-love and love with community, feeling seen, heard, and understood. You gain all that, and Shirley didn't like it and then eventually unfollowed you. Okay. We know that. We agree here. Okay. Let's just flip it and reverse it right now. Let's just play another scenario out. So let's just say you continue life as it is. You don't share anything online because, truth be told, you really could not handle someone saying something bad about you. It's just, you're such an empath and you just feel it to such a deep level. And so you don't share your voice. You never become a coach. You never become an author. You never become a podcast host. You never reached lives of the millions of people that your soul wanted to. You never really feel of service. You continue to work a job that you hate with people that you don't jive with, who don't know you because they all hate their jobs too, and you're all just there for the paycheck. You are constantly stressed out, anxious. You go to sleep kind of depressed and hating life and wonder when it will end. And you're living for the weekends, but on the weekends, you're just so burnt out because you're spending all of your time doing things that you despise. And that continues today, this week, this month, this year, and another year passes and you wonder why you still haven't done anything with your spiritual gifts. But and now it's been another year, it's too late, you've lost momentum. And plus, people used to know you and it's just, you don't want to rock the boat. It's fine. You don't really need to. And another year goes by and it's kind of feeling heavier on your heart that you have these gifts that you're not using and you know that you can make an impact. And here's another person sharing all their life story with me, but I don't really know what to do with it. And I'm honestly feeling a little bit lost and confused and wondering if I'm really doing what I'm here to do. And when I really get quiet with myself, I actually kind of feel like I'm a failure and that I'm playing way under my potential. And that makes me really sad. And so I try to not think about that. And so I just kind of go on social media all the time. And I love spirituality. So I listen to other people talk about it. And I, when they're talking about it, I have all these ideas and things I would add, but I never actually quite do it. And that continues to go on for another year. And now I've gained 10 pounds because I'm super depressed and another 10. And I'm having, gut issues because I'm not actually digesting the life that I'm meant to. And I kind of already know that, but I'm not doing anything about it. Another year continues and now things are getting heavier and that goes on and on and on and on until your last breath. And you're looking out at your life and you're looking at all the experiences that you had, all the love you shared, and also all your regrets. And if you're honest with yourself, the biggest regret that you have is that I wish I had the confidence to just be myself. I wish I didn't care so much about what other people thought about me. I wish when I had that idea to actually share who I really am, I wish I did it then, because every year it kept getting harder and harder and further away. And I just kept getting more imposter syndrome and it felt like an impossible dream. I wish I just did it at the beginning because look at where I could have been. But it's fine. No regrets. I mean, there's no point of regretting, but damn, if there's another lifetime, I'm going to come back and finally have the confidence to share my voice. And so you join the ranks of the 99% of people who have this regret. In the book by palliative nurse around the top regrets of the dying, This was the number one regret. I wish I had the courage to be myself. And so I hope and I trust that you are listening to this podcast right now to take you off of that timeline. Because I don't want you to join the ranks of the majority of people who never actually get to know what their potential is, who end up coloring right here when the lines were way out here, who are so focused on what other people think about them that they don't really ask themselves, what do I think about me? And let's just weigh the pros and cons in this lifetime. Sure, Shirley didn't send the message about you. Did you ever see Shirley again? Is Shirley significant in your life? Is Shirley someone you would take advice from? And even if that person is your mother, even if that person is your sister-in-law, even if that person is your partner who doesn't agree with what you're doing, are you still going to let someone else's fears and the fact that they haven't played full out in their lives stop you from playing all out? Because people can only give you advice based on what they have personally experienced. So if everyone around you has given up on their dreams, of course they're going to tell you to do the same. They're going to tell you that's never going to happen. In fact, just yesterday, something told me, go back to in your notes app and look at what your notes were from 10 years ago. And I went back and I was on a flight and it was Christmas. And I was writing about family and how, as much as we love our family, we can't just blindly take advice from them. Because my dad told me 10 years ago that writing books, sharing about spirituality was delusional, that I would end up being a starving artist, and that in 30 years, I will regret the fact that I didn't get a more serious and stable job earlier. And that because of his love and support for me, he really believes I should give this up as soon as possible and instead focus on real estate, because that is a more stable and secure path. And imagine if I listened. Imagine the 8 years of this podcast that wouldn't have happened. Imagine the 5 books I've written that wouldn't have come out. Imagine the millions of lives that I've touched wouldn't have been touched. Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Whew. I share this as someone who, I don't know you personally. I don't know where life will take you. I just wish someone, oh my God, I'm going to mess up my purple eyeliner. I just wish I had someone telling me this before, when I had no idea how or if I would ever really be able to make a lifetime livelihood doing this. I had no idea. It was the thing I was the most anxious about. It was the thing that eventually caused my parents to disown me. It was the thing that led to so much years of instability in my life. I didn't know if it was possible. I didn't know if it was a far off dream. I had no evidence. This is 10 years ago. I didn't know an author. I didn't know it. It wasn't as big as it was today. And every single time I would try to quit, there was just some voice inside of me that said, keep going. Keep going. And it might not be this, but you'll figure it out somehow. I literally can't imagine what my life would be like if I hadn't listened to that voice. If I just decided to give up on all of this and take the safer path while I could. And I got a stable 9-to-5 job and kept up with that perpetually. I would have been exactly what I shared with you. I would have been that person who was just listening to the podcast, just watching the YouTube videos and never doing anything with it. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be sharing. I wouldn't have known myself. I wouldn't have created the very thing I love the most about myself. My life has been challenging. You know, there have been many ups and downs beyond this. But having a sense of purpose has been my North Star throughout it all. It has been the thing after going through betrayal in my then marriage that when the whole world felt like it was swept from under my feet, it was the thing I had that was mine, that couldn't be taken away from me, couldn't, leave me. It was mine. It was something that I knew the more I devoted myself to, the more that it would grow. And especially as women, oh my God, we need this. We really, really need this because life is so uncertain. Relationships are uncertain. The world is uncertain. But the one thing that we know is that our dharmas, our paths, our truth, that is the thing that we can always go back to. And it may change, it may evolve with time. But when you are operating in truth and you can start to feel what that feels like, to feel in that state of flow, to feel those synchronicities that are coming through, to feel like you are in alignment with something greater than you, when you're off, it becomes very evident. And I'm going to do my next solo cast. I want to talk about how do we know when we're off path and we're not seeing the synchronicities as well. But when you are, it is the universe telling you, keep going. It is your highest self, I believe, what synchronicities really are. It's your highest self telling you, this is the right path. Keep following it. The fact that you're here listening to this, and this is a very off the cuff episode that I had no idea we would go here right now. I just know that there's something to your life that you're not touching yet. There's something to you that is healing, a healing balm for the world is what the word that's coming to me. There's something about you that is a nectar. It is a panacea. It is creating like a new, the words it's saying is summertime breeze for the collective in this world where there are tornadoes and storms. Wow, the channel's really coming through right now. You are here to create an island, a refuge, a sanctuary of consciousness. And it allows people not to escape where they are at, but rather to join you on this island. You can see now I'm channeling, the voice sounds different. Because when you move to this island and you invite people onto this island, you start to share with people a new way of being that they felt within their souls, but they didn't know was possible. And they needed to know you. And even if that knowing you was through a video that you shared, it still is a message that anchors into the souls of the right people who are ready to hear it, just as this is now. And so when you start to create that reality that you wish existed, you start to create an island that continues to grow and continues to get bigger. And who knows, it can become a whole new world. But right now it feels like you're the only one on this island. And it feels like, who is going to come to save me? Well, no one. You started the island. You started the frequency. The reason why there's no one around you with the island yet is because you're meant to be the one to build it. This is why you are amongst one of the very first. This is why you have chosen to be in a dense forest path with no pathway to it, because you are here to tread lightly and gratefully towards entering a new field. Wow. I'm channeling from somewhere else right now. I don't know who this is. And when we can trust that we will take each step and go through this dense forest of consciousness and know that the darkness was our preparation test to help other people who are also in their own forests and also feel there is no one to give them a helping hand, they hear that you were once in their forest too. They hear you were once in the same dark that they are in now. And even if they haven't seen your light, they know your light. And they know that they have a light. Even just knowing that there is light is enough for people to awaken their light. So be light, light, feel light, breathe light. It is all about bringing more light to this planet. And light doesn't mean effervescent all the time. Light just means illuminated. Illuminated in truth, illuminated in being, illuminated in consciousness. It means someone who has looked at the tougher things, the denser things, the shadow things, the branches, the scrubs, the weeds. They've sat in the pile of leaves of their own messy thoughts, and they decided to not willow there. And so they begin raking, and that rake creates the path. And that path connects to other paths, and we can start to create a village. and the village continues to grow as each person turns on their light, turns on their candle, you know there are other homes that have been illuminated. And even if you're not with them, you know they exist, which gives you a feeling of safety, just to know that they have woken themselves up. And so you continue to build these paths amongst each other, and what was once an island becomes a village, and what was a village becomes a town. But this is a new way of creating towns. Many of us are afraid of the old way. We're afraid of the traumas and the imprints that have happened before. And so we are afraid of sharing our light because we didn't want what has happened to rehappen. And instead, if we can trust that we are walking this path intentionally, not blindly, we are not scorching down, blazing down a village. We are not lighting fire to the forest, which is the way that city-states were made before. It wasn't bridges being built. It was fires destroying what was there. That was the foundation. It was war. It was triumph. Instead, this is a spider web. It is built on collaboration. It is built on propensities for people to be in their propensity. And as they continue to cross that bridge within, they cross that bridge without. And they meet people who help them cross more bridges within. And so we really are all walking each other home. Whew. Okay. This channel can go on for a while. I don't know if you felt what that is. I always channel on this, but it's mostly just me. And that felt like very much a spirit or a being that felt actually out of this planet. And I've actually never channeled a galactic being before. So that was a first. Wow. And so I almost have to look up because it's like a different consciousness, but I'm still here and I'm still present in my body. Whew. It says, we wanted to show them an example of someone sharing their voice. Wow, guys, I thought I was going to give you this like full thought out story, and it's this. When you actually open up to being the vessel that you are meant to be, you will say things that amaze you, that teach you, that you're like, wow, where did that come from? It was exactly what I needed to hear. Because you are connected to the guides that are here to support you, and the guides that are here to support you are here to support also the frequency of people whom you reach. There is a collective consciousness with us. What is for me is for you, because we're connected to this web. And so run that back, because I don't even remember what just was said fully. Like, I'm going to have to re-listen to this episode. What I hope you take from it is that there's something bigger going on at this time. We're not living in normal times. Magic is real. Spirit is real. All of the synchronicities that you've experienced were not random. They're guiding you towards something. This podcast was not random. When we get out of our own ways, out of our own heads, stop rehearsing and planning and controlling life, and instead be open to whatever is meant to come through, how spirit wants to not use, but delight in the being of us. It is the best feeling in the world, because it's the unique thing that only we can do. And it actually fills you up with so much purpose, so much true fulfillment, because you're like, wow, I am really living full out. And I know for me on my deathbed, I have a lot of questions for God. I have a running list, but one thing I won't have is a regret. And so I hope this episode on a deeper level hits something deeper in your soul around why you might not feel comfortable sharing your voice and story, why Shirley, your ex, your mother-in-law may have been such a big deal, but what you're actually left with is a lifetime of fulfillment, is you feeling so proud of yourself, is you getting to live in an energy that amazes you. It's a healing energy. And maybe it's not channeling in the way that I do. Maybe for you, it's creating art. Maybe for you, it's writing poems. Maybe for you, it's healing with your hands. Maybe for you, it's dancing, singing, playing, laughing, creating dinner parties, traveling. Like, there are so many different things in different ways. And by the way, it changes over time. But know that you were born here on this planet for a reason. Your message, your voice, your story, it's not just important. It was chosen by your soul. And you are here to be the example of what is possible for the people who are still in that dense forest. So, next steps, I have my Karma Clearing for the Mystic's Voice course. This is a 6-week live course that I do all around clearing karma, around sharing your voice. We go through the alchemical process together. It is very deep. It is very transformative. All of the codes came through while I was sitting in temples in Egypt, literally going into Isis temples, Cleopatra's bathhouses. So it is like the purest frequency, really straight from ancient Kemet, which is where alchemy is from. And it's all about sharing your voice, especially for the mystic. So I will share that link below. It's live 6 weeks. It's taking place this October. I'll also share the link if you're listening to this later to join the next round. Thank you so much for being here. Wow, I didn't expect it to go here. And I'm grateful. It was very healing for me to be a part of as well. Thank you for holding the space. Obviously, I'm that person right now at the party to you. I've never shared this with anyone before. So thank you. Like, I felt your presence. It made me start crying about something I've never talked about because I felt safe with you. Energetically, like I'm feeling it. I could probably feel that you were really there with me. Like maybe you like stopped what you were doing and you were like really paying attention to the episode at that time. And I felt it because time doesn't exist. So even though I'm technically recording this before you're listening, energetically, there's no freaking way that we did not just feel each other in that. And it was like probably the way that you just looked at maybe my video at that time and the space you held and the way that you've held me, that made me feel safe to just open up and cry on my own podcast. So you really are a miracle worker. Thank you so much. Be sure to subscribe for future episodes. Share with me in the comments, like what resonated with you. If there's a timestamp, share on YouTube. I love timestamps. If it's like at minute 18 or whatever it was, what came through. I'm really curious how this landed. I want this to be a conversation. I also share on my Instagram at I am Sahara Rose. So connect with me and share with me there as well. Thank you again. I'll see you in the next episode.
Trust your intuition, trust your inner wisdom, trust your inner guidance. Close your eyes and listen. Surrender, let go. So trust your intuition, trust your inner wisdom, trust your inner guidance. Close your eyes.